training room was cold and bright. Alien cadets from many planets sat in rows, their eyes fixed on the big screen. Some had scales, some had fur, some had metal plates instead of skin. All of them were young, full of pride. Today, they were going to study war. Not their own wars, but Earth's wars. The instructor, a tall green creature with 4 arms and glowing eyes, smiled as he pressed a button. "Today, we learn how humans fight," he said. "Prepare yourselves. It is violent. It is chaos. It is primitive." The lights dimmed. Footage began to play. Explosions, screams, fire. Humans in old-style armor running through smoke, shouting orders. Bullets flying, bombs falling. The alien cadets laughed. "They fight like animals," one said. "No shields, no drones," another joked. "Just guns and blood." "How did they even survive?" The instructor smiled again. "They survived. By becoming monsters?" At the back of the room, one figure didn't laugh. He was silent. Wearing a simple gray uniform, his face half in shadow, no one noticed him enter. No one had asked his name. He looked human, but no one cared. They thought he was just a translator, maybe a cleaner, or a quiet observer. But his eyes did not move from the screen. He watched every bullet, every step, like he had seen it all before. The video showed a famous Earth battle too. Sides trapped in ruined buildings, shooting from windows, crawling through mud and blood. A human soldier ran through fire to pull a wounded comrade. An alien cadet said, "Why risk your life for one?" The silent man in the back raised his head. "Because he was his brother," he said in a calm voice. The room went quiet. All heads turned toward him. The instructor frowned. "Excuse me? Who are you?" The man stood slowly. His boots made a heavy sound on the metal floor. "You show these battles like games," he said. "But for us it was life. Every scream on that video, I still hear them." The instructor laughed nervously. "You are a human." The man's eyes were cold. "I was a soldier," he said. "I lived that battle. I pulled my brother from that fire." A long silence filled the room. The screen paused on an image of a soldier, dragging his friend. Through flames, eyes full of pain. One alien whispered, "That's him. It looks like him." The instructor looked pale now. He clicked on the soldier's face. The screen showed a name. The same name the silent man wore on his chest. Some cadets stood up. Others backed away slowly. No one laughed now. The silent man looked at the young aliens. "You wanted to learn how we fight?" he said. "Then watch closely, because you don't know what war really means." He turned and walked toward the door, leaving behind only silence and a room full of eyes suddenly wide with fear. The academy was no longer the same after that day. The silence in the halls was heavy, like a storm waiting to break.
Whispers
Followed the human wherever he walked. Some cadets stared. Others turned their heads quickly, pretending not to see him. No one laughed at Earth War footage anymore. The man whose name was now known Sergeant Kane spoke little and smiled even less. He spent most of his time walking alone, his eyes always watching, always thinking. The alien cadets began to fear him not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't. His silence spoke louder than any scream. One group of cadets, proud and loud, tried to test him. "Human!" one shouted across the training yard. "Tell us how many of your own kind did you kill?" The others laughed nervously. Kane looked up slowly. He walked toward them, step by step, like he was back on the battlefield. When he reached the one who spoke, he didn't raise his voice. He only asked, "Do you really want to know?" The cadet's smile faded. Kane leaned close. "Because I remember every face, every cry, every mistake, and if I tell you, you won't sleep tonight." The cadet stepped back. No more words were said. After that, even the bold ones kept their distance, but not everyone feared him. One young cadet, smaller than the rest, with smooth silver skin and curious eyes, began following him. Her name was Alari. "Why do they fear you?" she asked one day. Kane paused. "Because I remind them of death," he answered. "But I'm not here to scare them. I'm here to see if they can learn." Ilari tilted her head. Learn what? Kane looked out at the training field. That war is not about weapons. It's about the will to survive, to protect, to keep moving, even when everything is burning around you. Ilari didn't ask more that day. But she stayed close, watching, learning. Meanwhile, the Academy's leaders were worried. They gathered in secret behind closed doors. He's dangerous, one said. He's unstable, another added. The head instructor said, maybe we can use him. They pulled old files, hidden reports, sealed records. What they found shocked them. Kane was not just a soldier. He was part of a special unit. A Black Ops team used only for the worst missions, where survival was not expected. His record showed missions that were marked impossible, yet somehow completed. No medals, no honors, just silence. That meant one thing. He was too deadly to celebrate. He was meant to disappear, but he did. And the question no one could answer was simple. Why? And worse, what happens when a human weapon decides to speak? Dark clouds gathered above the Academy, not in the sky but in the minds of those inside. The mood had changed. Everyone felt it. The cadets trained harder. They spoke less. Even the instructors walked with tense shoulders. Something was wrong. But no one could explain it. Only Kane knew. He felt it in his bones. A silence too deep. A quiet before the storm. The kind of silence he had known before cities burned. Then the alert came. A warning flash on every screen in the Academy. Unidentified vessels approaching. Cloaked. No communication. The instructors ran to their posts. Cadets were ordered to battle stations. Sirens screamed. Panic filled the halls. From a high tower, Kane looked at the dark sky. Strange shapes moved behind the clouds. Not training ships, not friendly. These were warships. Sharp, black, fast. They're here, he whispered. Inside the control room, instructors argued. We weren't told of any drills, one shouted. Is this real? Another asked. The commander slammed his hand on the table. It doesn't matter. We prepare for attack. The cadets were sent to the walls, to defense towers, to guard posts. They had trained for years, but never for this. They were not ready, not truly. Kane didn't wait for orders. He walked into the armory. The guards at the door stepped aside without a word. He took no laser rifle, no energy blade, just old earth weapons, an assault rifle, 2 grenades, and his knife. What are you doing? Ilari asked, following him. Preparing, Kane said. These walls won't hold, not unless someone teaches them how to survive. He walked to the command center, where instructors were shouting at each other. Your plan will get them killed, Kane said, his voice calm but firm. The room froze. The commander turned. And what do you suggest? Kane looked around. You trained them to shoot, but you didn't train them to think like warriors. I can hold the first wave, but I'll need 10 cadets who can follow orders and not panic. The commander hesitated. This isn't your army. Kane stepped forward. It is now. Explosions shook the ground. The enemy had landed, fast and silent, black armored. Troops poured from the ships, killing anything in their path. The Academy's outer walls fell within minutes. Cadets screamed through their cums. We're losing ground. They're too fast. They're inside. Kane turned to Ilari. Lesson 2, he said. Never let the enemy feel safe. He vanished into the smoke. Moments later, enemy soldiers began to fall, not from the front, from behind, from shadows, from above. Kane moved like a ghost one. Shot, 1 kill. Fast, quiet, brutal. He left no bodies whole. The enemy commanders paused. Something's hunting our men, one said. It's not part of the Academy defense. Kane whispered into the stolen enemy radio. Just 3 words. I'm just warming up. The Academy burned. Enemy dropships circled above, dropping wave after wave of black armored troops. They moved fast, without fear, cutting through the young cadets like they were nothing. The Academy's defenses were breaking. Screams filled the air. Explosions rocked the walls. Inside the command room, panic had taken over. We've lost. Contact with the East Tower. West Gate has fallen. They're everywhere. But then, the enemy stopped moving. Reports came in. Squad 12 is gonna signal. Squad 8. Wiped out, but no gunfire heard. Something's not right. One commander shouted, "Find the attacker! Find him now!" They tried. They sent drones, but the drones showed only smoke and shadows. One by one, the elite enemy squads disappeared. No gunfire, no noise, just silence. And then nothing. Like death itself walked through them. Back at the academy, Alari and a small group of cadets hid in the ruins of the training yard. "We're not soldiers," one of them whispered. "We're going to die." Laurie held her rifle-tight eyes, scanning the smoke. "We have to hold. He's still out there." Then a voice came through. "There comes. Rough, calm, human. Lesson 3, Kane said. Surprise is a weapon. Use it well." Cadets looked up. A shape moved above them. Kane, running along a broken rooftop, jumping without fear, carried 2 enemy weapons now and left fire behind him. He tossed a grenade into an enemy line and vanished before it exploded. The cadets followed his voice. "Push forward. Use the ruins. Don't fight head-on. Think like predators." With fear in their eyes, but fire in their hearts, they moved. For the first time, they weren't just running. They were fighting back. In the command ship above, the enemy leader watched the reports with a deep frown. "One human is doing this?" his second-in-command asked. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Not just a human, a relic. A ghost of Earth's wars. We've made a mistake." Inside the main hall of the academy, Kane set traps. Not tech traps. Simple ones. Wire, fire, distraction, the kind humans had used. In old wars, he knew the enemy's moves before they made them. He didn't fight with power, he fought with fear. They began to call him the Shadow. They fired at nothing, screamed at darkness. They were trained killers, but they had never met something like him. Kane sent one last message. Through the enemy's stolen channel. "You came for training grounds. You found a graveyard." Then he cut the signal and prepared for the final wave. The academy, once weak and scared, now stood like a fortress, because one human had turned it into a battlefield. The sky turned red with fire as the battle reached its peak. The academy grounds were broken walls shattered, towers burning, but the cadets were still standing, and they were no longer afraid. They moved like soldiers now, not students. Their eyes sharp, their hands steady, because someone had shown them how to survive. Someone had taught them what war truly was. Sergeant Kane stood at the front gate, blood on his face, enemy rifle in his hands. Behind him, 10 cadets followed. They weren't the best fighters, but they were the ones who had listened, the ones who had learned. The enemy commander landed at last, stepping from his ship in black armor covered with red marks. His voice came through every channel. "Human," he said, "you fight like an animal. You hide, you strike, you run." Kane stepped forward. "That's why I'm still alive." The enemy laughed. "You can't win. You're one man." Kane looked back at the cadets. "I'm not alone." The signal, the final battle began. Kane led the charge, no orders, no fear. He ran straight into the fire. The cadets followed. They used everything he had taught them: ambush, speed, misdirection. They moved between shadows, used smoke as cover, fought up close and fast. The enemy had numbers. But the cadets had Kane. He fought like a ghost, silent, deadly. He moved through their lines, never stopping, never slowing. Ilari stayed close, her rifle sharp, her heart strong. Together, they turned the tide. In one brutal moment, Kane reached the enemy commander. The two faced each other in the burning yard. Sparks fell around them like rain. "You don't belong here," the commander said. "This world isn't yours." Kane stepped close. "It is now." They fought blade against blade. No guns, no tricks. Just pure skill. The commander was strong, fast, trained. But Kane had something more. Experience, pain, memory. He had seen the worst of war and walked out of it with one sharp move. Kane drove his knife into the enemy's neck. The commander fell. The enemy soldiers saw their leader fall. Ran, the battle was over. Smoke rose from the ruins, but the academy still stood. Cadets helped each other from the rubble. They were wounded, tired, bloodied, but alive. Kane dropped his weapon. His hands shook, not from fear, but from memory. Alari came to his side. "We did it," she said, her voice soft. Kane nodded slowly. "You did it," he said. "You learned." Around them, the cadets stood taller, not as students, but as warriors. The war had changed them, and the human who taught them was no longer just a ghost. He was their leader, their example, their weapon. The smoke cleared slowly over the broken academy grounds. Fire still burned in the distance, but the sound of gunfire had stopped. What remained was silence, not the silence of fear, but the silence that came after victory. The cadets stood together, wounded but standing, their eyes filled with something new, strength. They had survived. The unthinkable. They had faced death, and they had won. Sergeant Kane walked through the ruins, calm and quiet. His uniform was torn. His arms were covered in blood, dirt, and scars. He passed the cadets without saying much, but every one of them moved aside with respect. No one laughed at Earth now. No one called humans primitive. They had seen what Earth's war made, and they would never forget. Alari caught up to him near the command tower. "They're rebuilding the academy," she said. "The council wants to promote you. They want you to train the next class." Kane shook his head. "That's not why I came." Alari frowned. "Then why did you come here?" Kane looked at the sky. It was dark again, not from smoke, but from something else. A feeling, shadow. "Because this was just the beginning," he said. Ilari's eyes widened. "You think more are coming?" Kane nodded slowly. "The ones we fought, they were scouts. Testing the weak, hunting the unprepared. But the real storm is still far away." She stood beside him in silence for a moment. "Then what do we do?" Kane looked back at the cadets. They were helping the injured, building walls, cleaning the battlefield. They were no longer soft, no longer children. "We train," he said. "We make sure the next fight doesn't catch us sleeping." Later that night, a message arrived from deep space. It was encrypted, meant for Earth's eyes only, the Academy. Council couldn't break it, but Kane could. He read the short message in silence. Subject: Kane confirmed active. Mission updated. Phase 2 authorized. Others en route. Kane stared at it, then closed the file. The next day, the Academy welcomed new recruits, young, eager faces from across the galaxy. But this time, they weren't greeted by soft words or training schedules. They were met by a man with tired eyes and a voice like stone. "I'm Sergeant Kane," he told them. "You came here to become warriors and forget what you think you know, because the enemy isn't waiting. The enemy is already moving. And if you don't learn fast, you die fast." And far beyond the stars, other ships moved through the black. Other humans, other ghosts from Earth. Kane was not the only one. He was just the first. The galaxy was about to learn what true war meant, because Earth was waking up, and it was angry. A week after Sergeant Kane revealed himself, the Academy announced a surprise combat test. It was called a live sim, a real-time battle simulation inside a large virtual terrain, where cadets had to survive, lead, and fight. No help. No resets. Just instincts and choices. The top 50 cadets were selected. To everyone's shock, Kane's name was on the list. Some laughed quietly, thinking he would fail. Others whispered, "He's not one of us. This isn't fair." But the instructors said nothing. They wanted to see what he would do. The day of the test arrived. Cadets lined up in armor with rifles, scanners, and drone packs. Each one looked ready, confident. Kane stood at the end, wearing no armor, just simple black gear and an old belt with a knife. One instructor stepped up. "Do you require any? Weapons? Human?" Kane looked at him and replied, "Just this." He tapped the knife. The instructor raised an eyebrow. "Good luck then." Kane didn't answer. The cadets were dropped into the simulation. An artificial war zone filled. With broken buildings, hills, fog, and traps, the mission was clear. Reach the command tower in the center, take control, and survive the enemy waves for 10 minutes. Cadets formed squads shouting orders and moving in teams. But Kane vanished. No one saw where he went. The cameras tried to track him, but the feed from his zone turned static. Strange, one tech said. His signal just disappeared. Then the chaos began. One cadet group reached a broken street and exploded. Their drone feed showed nothing, just silence. Then sudden fire. Another team entered a tunnel. Screams echoed. The feed showed a blur. And then darkness. "They're being picked off," the commander said. But how? No one had answers. The remaining cadets grew nervous. "There's someone hunting us," one said. "Is it the simulation?" another asked. But deep down, they already knew. It wasn't the program, it was Kane. Back in the control room, instructors stared at the screens in shock. "He's using the terrain like a ghost," one said. "He's predicting their movements before they make them." In just 10 minutes, Kane had taken out 24 cadets without being seen. No drones detected him. No sensors caught him.
Ow.
It was like he didn't exist inside the system. Finally, one squad reached the command tower. Just before they could activate it, the lights flickered. A shadow moved behind them. One cadet screamed, "He's here!" But it was too late. When the simulation ended, Kane stood alone in the tower, holding the command pad. Around him, virtual bodies lay scattered. When the sim room opened, Kane stepped out first, calm as ever. The other cadets followed, bruised, angry, silent. No one clapped, no one cheered. Even the instructors looked uneasy. Kane looked at them all and said, "You brought me here to teach. Lesson 1. Never enter a fight you don't understand. Die." Academy's council met that same night. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of floating screens. Holograms showed the results of the simulation. Red markers filled the map. Each one a cadet killed by Kane. Only one blue marker remained. At the center, the council members were silent for a long time. Finally, one spoke. "He shouldn't be here," said a tall figure with horns and silver eyes. "This was a mistake." Another, older and covered in cyber armor, replied, "No, this was a message. Earth sent him for a reason." They opened a sealed file. It was old, classified, forgotten by most. The title read Project Revenant. Inside were reports, mission logs, and dark truths. Sergeant Kane wasn't a normal soldier. He had been part of a secret Earth program made during the last century of human war. These were the soldiers who were used when no hope was left, when defeat was certain. They were called in to do what no one else could or would. Kane's file listed battles that were never made public. Cities erased, enemies who vanished. Whole missions with no survivors, except him. His last mission was marked Final Deployment. After that, his name disappeared from all records. No death, no return, just gone. One council member whispered, "He was supposed to be dead." The head of the council stood. "Then why is he here now?" Meanwhile, Kane sat alone in his quarters, sharpening his knife. The room was small, simple, nothing on the walls. No light except the one above his head. He didn't sleep much. Memories came when he closed his eyes. Smoke, screams, fire, friends calling his name. Orders shouted through static. And silence. Always silence after the battle ended. There was a knock at his door. Kane stood and opened it. Ilari, the silver-skinned cadet, stood outside. She looked nervous, but held her ground. "I want to understand," she said. "Why do you fight like that?" Kane let her in and sat down again. He was quiet for a moment, then spoke. "Because I had to. Back on Earth, we didn't have powerful tech. We didn't have energy shields or safe zones. We had bullets, pain, and the will to keep going." He looked at her. "You all train for war like it's a puzzle. But for us, it was fire and blood. We didn't train to win, trained not to die." Ilari asked softly, "Why did you come here?" Kane didn't answer right away. "I came to see if anyone here understands what real war means," he said. "To see if your kind are ready. 'Cause something's coming. I've seen signs. Shadows moving between stars. It's not just training anymore. Far away, in deep space, something did move. A hidden fleet, dark and silent, heading toward the Academy world. No signals, no warnings, just war. And back at the Academy, Canes. Words hung in the air like smoke. You don't know what war is. Not yet.